Hey guys, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and today I have a very interesting video to do for you because this is actually going to be a critical movie review. And in today's review, we're going to cover the new release movie, Antebellum. Hey everyone, so thanks for coming back to the channel for this review. Like I said, this is not going to be a 4K or Blu-ray review. This is strictly a critical movie review of the new release movie Antebellum. It was recently released by Lionsgate, direct to home, and Lionsgate was able to provide me with a screener to watch it and review it for you guys. So that's really cool. This will hopefully be a new series of things that I'm going to do. I'll talk about at the end of the review some of the ideas I have for the channel, but with that being said, let's jump right into this review of Antebellum. So Antebellum was just released direct to home and originally was supposed to have a theatrical release and was going to be sort of a flagpole kind of movie for Lionsgate here in the fall as a horror thriller, you know, leading into Halloween and that season. But with the pandemic and everything going on, they decided to skip theatrical and release it direct to home. So Antebellum was directed by Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz, otherwise known as Renz and Bush. They are a duo that have worked on a lot of music videos for very famous people. The one that I've seen of theirs is one they did for Jay-Z off his album 444. So they've done a lot of sort of shorter form things, but this is their first movie that they're taking on as a creative team and directing and producing. So the movie stars Janelle Monáe first and foremost. She is the main character and gets the primary load of the screen time. Also has Jenna Malone. It has Gabrielle Sidibe, a few other people you may know, but it's primarily female driven and it is primarily driven by Janelle Monáe. The other characters really don't get fleshed out much. They don't have much screen time. This is really Janelle Monáe's movie. This is her first big movie as kind of the lead star. You may know her. She's an entertainer, pop singer, has had some fairly successful music over the years, won Grammys, things like that. But now she's getting into acting a little bit more, and this is her first lead role, which is really cool. Now, the movie kind of focuses on her character, Janelle Monáe's character, who is a slave on a reform plantation in the South during the Civil War. So, you know, the movie opens up immediately with a long shot of a plantation, walking through the plantation, Confederate soldiers, Confederate flags, you know, and immediately starts with a pretty brutal scene. And, you know, I'll say that about the movie is they don't hold back any of the brutality of slavery, but I would say it's not nearly as brutal as something like 12 Years a Slave, which really dove into some things, or even like a Django Unchained. It doesn't quite get to that level, but they clearly don't hold back. The movie is rated R, and you know the horrors of slavery are on full display. Now the movie has a very interesting twist that you sort of get the first bit of it about 30 minutes in, and then about an hour and 10 minutes in. This movie's about an hour and 45, and it's fast paced. And in about an hour and 10, the big twist is revealed. And so they're kind of building up to it the whole time. And I have to say that because I watched the trailer for this, it made the twist extremely predictable to the point where in the first 10 minutes, I kind of called it and nailed it. It's really not that hard to do. I'm not like some genius who figured out all the clues. About 10 minutes in, I was like, I have a pretty good idea what this movie is, and I was right. Now, if I hadn't seen the trailer, I probably wouldn't have gotten there as quickly. The trailer really gives away some key plot points and just sets the movie up in a way that it doesn't need to, because it's supposed to be first and foremost a movie about this plantation, reform plantation, slavery, the brutalities, you know, racism, how the South and heritage and all that stuff they talk about, you know, how that's affected America. And they do a good job with that, but then, you know, the twist kind of ties it back into, you know, some things that are happening in the modern day as well. And it kind of, it gives a few things away with that. So I would skip the trailer before watching this for sure. Now the movie itself is pretty fast paced. There isn't much to say in terms of dialogue because on the plantation, the slaves are actually not allowed to talk. So there is not much talking. There's a lot of facial expressions and acting through those expressions, which Janelle Monáe does a very good job of. She is clearly the highlight here. She does a good job as the lead, but there isn't much to say for the rest of the characters. They're not fleshed out. You really don't get invested in them. So it's really hard to talk about this movie without talking about the twist, which I obviously don't want to do. I don't want to spoil anything. Lionsgate made it very clear, do not ruin the twist for this movie. So I'm not going to. It's really hard to talk about without that. But what I will say is a lot of the reason this movie was hyped up was because it had the same producers as Get Out and Us, the two Jordan Peele movies, which also focus on race and American culture and, you know, white versus black and the way white people view black people and systemic racism and all these different themes it has. And Antebellum tries really, really hard to get into that category. And I would say that it doesn't have as good a twist, and it doesn't give as solid a commentary on kind of America and racism in America as Get Out does. And it doesn't do as good a job depicting slavery and really getting into the horrors of that as much as like a 12 Years a Slave does. So it's like somewhere in the middle, trying to be like a Civil War movie, but also trying to have this commentary, and it just doesn't really find its footing, in my opinion. I had a lot of moments during the movie where I kind of was like, what is going on? Why do we make that choice? It's not as good as it wants to be. I'll say that. It wants to be great. It wants to be this commentary on especially what's happening in the world, or mostly in America right now. What is happening right now with an election year and, you know, Black Lives Matter movement and protests and, you know, Confederate flags and statues being taken down and debates about that. And it wants to get involved in that, and it tries, but it misses the mark. And I can see why Lionsgate wanted to put this out right now, because it's super relevant, but it just doesn't do a good enough job to make you talk about it in the way that Get Out was talked about, or the way that even 12 Years a Slave, or a movie like Fruitvale Station, or Harriet, or movies like that, you know, Selma, that really get talked about and get recognition. It doesn't do that, and it misses the mark, and that's unfortunate. The other problem with this movie is that, honestly, by the end of it, it is almost so unbelievable to the point that I was almost laughing, which is not good, because you shouldn't laugh at this movie. There's a lot of brutal stuff happening, and it's, you know, terrifying from Janelle Monáe's perspective, especially, as well as all of the other black characters in the movie. It's a scary movie, but it got so unbelievable at the end, where the last 5 minutes I was literally like, this can't be happening. This is so unrealistic. I wish I could talk about it, but if you've seen it, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Like, wow, they had this whole, you know, this whole thing was set up right here, like right under, you know, you can't talk about it, but like it's so unbelievable that it takes away from the spirit of the movie. And, you know, it kind of tries to mix like Get Out and The Hunt, which was another kind of politically charged movie from earlier this year, and mesh those two things, and it just doesn't know what it wants to be, and that leaves it lacking. So I would give this thing like 5.5, 6 out of 10. You know, as a horror movie, as a thriller, it is sort of effective. It's definitely more a thriller than a horror movie. There aren't like jump scares, there aren't like supremely scary moments, but it's scary in a different way. It's scary in a way that it's obviously, me as a white male is hard to relate to. So but you know, it's what's happening is terrifying, but it's scary in a different way. It's not Michael Myers scary. It's reality. It's what's happening in America, that kind of scary. So yeah, overall, you know, high marks for Janelle Monáe. The movie's shot very well. There's some really interesting long takes and some beautiful cinematography and really cool shots, slow motion. There's a few scenes that are really well done. The movie looks great, so props to, you know, the directors on their first effort. But the story needed some work. The plot needed to be fleshed out a little bit more. We needed to be more invested in some of the characters, and that's why I give it a 5.5, 6 out of 10. I do think it's worth watching, but I would probably wait till it comes out on disc, or you can grab it on, you know, some sort of streaming service. Obviously I prefer disc, but it's not a movie I'd go out and pay $20 to see. I'd be a little disappointed. That being said, if you are interested in it, you want to check it out for yourself, I'll leave a link to it where you can purchase it through Apple TV, through the Lionsgate at Home distribution. You pay them the rental fee, you can then watch it. I don't get any kickback for that, just want to provide that so you guys can watch it if you want to. But other than that, that's it for the review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Now, on the channel itself, I want to talk about this really quickly, and I'm interested in what you guys want to see, because I'm still not going to get to see every new release movie. Like, I didn't have a chance to see Tenet yet. I'll get to those movies as they come out, but let me know in the comments, would it be interesting for me to do more critical movie analysis, but like retro reviews, where I may take like Back to the Future and review that, or some older Christopher Nolan movies, maybe Inception, Interstellar, and talk about those, even going way back to, you know, doing a review of Jaws and letting you know what I really think about the movie itself instead of, you know, 4K transfers. So if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. I'm always interested to sort of expand content and give you guys another look into my mind. People seem to enjoy me talking about movies, so I figured that's a natural next step. They won't be nearly as frequent as the 4K and Blu-ray updates and reviews and home theater and collecting news and physical media. That's still the primary focus, but every now and then I think I may throw in like a 5 to 10 minute retro review. So let me know if you guys want to see that in the comments. Otherwise, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe so you're up to date on all the latest content. And that's all I have. So thank you for watching this. It was a tough critical review, but I really enjoyed doing it and putting this together. I took my time. I took some notes on it. It was a lot of fun. So, you know, in a different way. I do that with 4K reviews, but it was a lot of fun to think critically about the movie itself and talk about that. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, but hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.